The foundation brush trembled in my hand as I heard the apartment door click open downstairs. My heart seized in my chest like a fist clenching around ice. She wasn't supposed to be home for another 3 hours. Jessica had texted me just 40 minutes ago, a photo of her latte at that bougie coffee shop across town where she met her study group every Thursday afternoon. The routine was sacred. Calculus study sessions ran long, she always said. I'd built my entire secret world around those Thursday afternoons. But now I heard her keys jangling, hitting the ceramic bowl on the entry table with that distinctive clink I'd memorized over 8 months of living together. Then her footsteps, soft but unmistakable on the hardwood floors. I stared at my reflection in her vanity mirror, and a stranger stared back, or maybe the real me, I didn't know anymore. The foundation I'd carefully applied gave my skin a smooth, porcelain finish. I'd just started on the contouring, following a YouTube tutorial I'd watched obsessively for weeks, too afraid to actually try it until today. The brush still hovered near my cheekbone, loaded with bronzer 3 shades darker than my skin tone. "Alex, you home?" Jessica's voice floated up the stairs, casual and unsuspecting. My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. I was frozen in her bedroom, sitting at her vanity, wearing her makeup, surrounded by the evidence of my transgression. Brushes scattered across the white surface. Compacts open like accusatory eyes. Her favorite MAC lipstick, Russian Red, I'd learned it was called, uncapped beside my trembling hand. "Alex." Closer now. She was climbing the stairs. The paralysis broke. I lurched to my feet, and the vanity chair scraped loudly against the floor. My mind raced through impossible scenarios. Hide in her closet. No, she'd hear me. Wash it off. No time. The foundation alone would take minutes to remove properly, and I'd need her makeup remover, which would leave evidence. Lock the door. It locked from the inside, but that would only delay the inevitable and make everything worse. Her footsteps reached the landing. She was 10 feet away from her bedroom door. 8 feet. 6. Time crystallized into something slow and syrupy. I watched her door handle begin to turn, and in that eternal moment, my entire life seemed to balance on a razor's edge. Everything I'd kept hidden since I was 12 years old, every shameful secret, every late-night browsing session, every moment of trying on my mother's jewelry when she left for work, all of it was about to come crashing down because I'd been careless. Because I'd trusted a routine. Because I'd let my guard down for one Thursday afternoon. The door swung open. Jessica stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, phone in hand, mouth already open to say something, and then she saw me. Her expression went through a rapid evolution: confusion, recognition, shock, and then something I couldn't quite read. Her dark eyes widened, traveling from my foundation-covered face to the makeup scattered on her vanity to the bronzer brush still clutched in my white-knuckled grip. We stood like that for what felt like an hour but was probably only 3 seconds. The air between us seemed to vibrate with tension. I wanted to say something, anything, but my voice had abandoned me. My brain offered up a dozen excuses, each more pathetic than the last. I was just curious. It's not what it looks like. I can explain. But what explanation could possibly make this okay? I was a 22-year-old man standing in my female roommate's bedroom, wearing her makeup, without her permission. There was no spinning this into something innocent. The word came out as barely a whisper, strangled and desperate. Jessica's mouth closed. Opened again. She blinked twice, like she was trying to reset her vision, hoping I might disappear or transform into something that made sense. Her knuckles whitened around her phone case. "The study group cancelled," she finally said, her voice oddly flat. "Jake got food poisoning. We're rescheduling for Saturday." Of all the things she could have said, this bizarre focus on logistics threw me completely off balance. I just stared at her, foundation covered and terrified, still holding her brush like a weapon or a shield. "Your contouring is wrong," she added, and I thought I might be having a stroke. Was this real? Had I fallen and hit my head? What? The word escaped me as a croak. She stepped into the room, and I instinctively took a step back, bumping against her vanity. compacts rattled. She dropped her backpack on her bed with a soft thump and turned to look at me with an expression that was becoming increasingly unreadable. "You're contouring," she repeated, gesturing vaguely at my face. "You're applying it wrong. That's Kim Kardashian-level contouring. It only works for photos with specific lighting. For everyday wear, you need something subtler, or you'll look like you have dirt streaks on your face." I couldn't process what was happening. My brain kept screaming that I should be apologizing, explaining, defending myself, but Jessica was giving me makeup advice like we were friends getting ready for a night out together. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I stumbled over the words, my face burning with shame beneath the foundation. "I'll clean everything up. I'll replace anything I used. I'm so sorry, Jessica. I know this is." "How long?" she interrupted. I froze. "What? How long have you been doing this? Using my makeup?" The question felt like a trap, but I was too rattled to construct a good lie. The truth came tumbling out. "This is the first time. I swear. I've never touched your stuff before. I've wanted to, God, I've wanted to so many times, but I never did until today. I thought you'd be gone longer, and I needed." I cut myself off, horrified at what I'd been about to admit. That I needed this. That the urge to try makeup, to see myself transformed, had been building for weeks like pressure in a sealed container. That watching tutorials late at night had stopped being enough, and I'd finally broken down and given in to temptation. Jessica studied me with an intensity that made me want to crawl out of my skin. Her gaze moved methodically across my face, taking in every detail. I became hyper-aware of how I must look, foundation poorly blended at my jawline, bronzer waiting to be applied, my natural eyebrows stark against the made-up skin, my lips still bare. "Sit down," she said finally. "What?" "Sit down." She gestured to her vanity chair. "You're going to give yourself streaks if you try to blend that bronzer yourself. You have no idea what you're doing." I couldn't move. This had to be some kind of elaborate trap. Any second now, she'd start screaming at me, or pull out her phone to take humiliating photos, or call our landlord to have me evicted. People didn't just accept this kind of thing. I knew that. I'd learned that lesson painfully at 15 when my mother found my hidden stash of makeup and sent me to a therapist who tried to fix me for 6 months. "Alex." Jessica's voice softened slightly. "Sit down. Please." The please undid something in me. On legs that felt like they belonged to someone else, I moved back to the vanity chair and lowered myself into it. In the mirror, I could see Jessica approaching from behind, and the sight was so surreal I half wondered if I'd wake up any moment. She reached past me and picked up the bronzer brush I'd dropped. "First rule," she said, and her voice had shifted into something almost businesslike, "never use this much product. You want to build it up gradually. Start with almost nothing on the brush." She demonstrated, swirling the brush in the bronzer compact with a light touch, then tapping off the excess. "And the placement is crucial. You're contouring to create shadow, so think about where natural shadows would fall." Her hand appeared near my face, and I flinched involuntarily. She paused, meeting my eyes in the mirror. Something passed between us, an understanding, maybe, or a question. Then, gently, she began applying the bronzer to my face. The brush was soft against my skin, softer than when I'd tried it myself. She worked with practiced efficiency, sweeping color along my cheekbones, down the sides of my nose, along my jawline. I sat perfectly still, afraid to breathe too hard, afraid to break whatever strange spell had been cast over this moment. "I had a friend in high school," Jessica said quietly as she worked, not quite meeting my eyes in the mirror. "Marcus. He was my best friend, actually. We did everything together. And one day, sophomore year, his mom found him wearing her dress. She kicked him out. Just like that. Called him every horrible name you can imagine and told him never to come back." My stomach dropped. Was this a warning? A story meant to show me how bad this could get? "He lived with us for 3 months until his aunt in Seattle agreed to take him in," Jessica continued. She set down the bronzer and picked up a highlighting palette. He's happy now. Living as his authentic self. We still video chat every couple of weeks. She's beautiful, confident, successful, everything Marcus was afraid he'd never get to be. She. Jessica had said she. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I'm not, I started to say, but Jessica held up a hand. I'm not asking you to define anything, she said firmly. I'm not asking you to explain yourself or justify this. I'm just telling you that story so you know that I know that this, she gestured at the makeup, at me, at everything, is complicated and personal and none of my business. Except for the part where you're using my expensive makeup without asking, which we'll need to discuss. But the rest. That's yours to figure out. Tears pricked at my eyes, and I blinked them back furiously, terrified of ruining the foundation. Jessica noticed and grabbed a tissue, dabbing carefully at the corners of my eyes. Don't cry yet, she said, and there was the ghost of a smile in her voice. Wait until you see the finished result. Then you can have your emotional moment. Part 2. The Transformation. Jessica worked in focused silence for the next 20 minutes, and I watched in the mirror as my face transformed. It wasn't dramatic, not the Instagram filter perfection I'd been trying to achieve. Instead, it was subtle, refined. She'd softened the contouring I'd attempted, adding a whisper of highlight to the high points of my face. My cheekbones emerged in a way I'd never seen them before. My nose looked straighter, more refined. Close your eyes, she instructed, and I obeyed. I felt the brush sweep across my eyelids, adding color I couldn't see. The sensation was intimate in a way I hadn't expected, and I felt deeply vulnerable sitting there with my eyes closed, trusting her completely. Okay, look up. She was holding a mascara wand, and my breath caught. Mascara felt like crossing a line somehow, more permanent, more visible. Foundation could be subtle, but mascara announced itself. Is this okay? Jessica asked, pausing with the wand near my face. We can stop wherever you want. The question was genuine. I could see it in her expression. She'd stop immediately if I said the word. But I'd come this far, and some reckless part of me wanted to see it through. It's okay, I whispered. She applied the mascara with careful precision, coaching me to look down, then to the side, her movements practiced and sure. When she finished, she stepped back to examine her work. Lip color, she asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She surveyed her collection of lipsticks, fingers trailing across tubes and compacts. Nothing too bold for your first time, she murmured, more to herself than to me. She selected a dusty rose shade and held it up for my approval. This is more forgiving. More natural. I nodded again, and she applied it with a brush, her touch feather-light. When she finished, she capped the lipstick and stepped back. Okay, she said. Open your eyes and look. I'd been avoiding the mirror, terrified of what I'd see. A man in makeup, ridiculous and obvious. A joke. But when I finally looked, I gasped. The face in the mirror was mine but transformed. The subtle makeup hadn't made me look feminine exactly, but it had softened my features, highlighted bone structure I didn't know I had, made my eyes look larger and more defined. I looked like a more polished version of myself. A more confident version. Oh, I breathed, leaning closer to the mirror. I touched my face gently, afraid I might smudge something, just needing to confirm this was real. Jessica was watching me with an expression I still couldn't quite read. Not disgust or pity, something closer to understanding, maybe even satisfaction. Thank you, I said, my voice cracking. Jessica, I don't, thank you. She shrugged, but there was warmth in the gesture. Everyone should get to see themselves the way they want to be seen, she said simply. Even if it's just for an afternoon. The words hit me like a physical blow, and the tears I'd been holding back spilled over. Jessica grabbed more tissues, dabbing at my face with professional efficiency. No crying, she scolded gently. You'll wreck the makeup, and I'm not doing this twice in one day. I laughed wetly, accepting the tissue and trying to compose myself. But emotions I'd kept locked away for years were fighting their way to the surface, and I couldn't seem to stop them. "I've never told anyone," I said, the words tumbling out. "My mom found out when I was 15, and it was really bad. She sent me to therapy." Dr. Morrison spent 6 months trying to convince me I was confused, that this was a phase, that real men don't want to wear makeup or women's clothes. And I tried. God, I tried so hard to be normal. But it never went away. The wanting. The needing. Jessica sat down on her bed, facing me, giving me her full attention. "I'd sneak into my mom's room when she worked late shifts," I continued, unable to stop now that I'd started. "I'd try on her jewelry, her lipstick. Just for a few minutes. Just to see. And I'd feel," I struggled for the word, "complete. Like I was seeing the real me for the first time. But then I'd wash it all off and feel disgusting. Broken. Wrong." "You're not wrong," Jessica said firmly. "You're not broken, and you're not disgusting." "How do you know?" The question came out more desperate than I intended. "You don't know what it's like. I'm a guy. Guys don't." "Guys don't what?" she challenged. "Don't wear makeup. Don't express themselves in ways society doesn't approve of? That's bullshit, Alex. Plenty of men wear makeup. Plenty of people exist outside the stupid boxes we're supposed to fit into. And you know what? That's not just okay, it's brave." "Brave?" I laughed bitterly. "I'm not brave. I'm terrified every single day. Terrified someone will figure it out. Terrified of being seen as a freak." "But you're here, aren't you?" Jessica gestured at my made-up face. "You took the risk. Even thinking you were alone, you took the leap and tried this. That's brave, Alex. Maybe you don't see it that way, but I do." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of confessions hanging between us. I stared at my reflection, at this version of myself I'd dreamed about but never thought I'd see. "Can I ask you something?" I said finally. "And you can absolutely say no." "Shoot." Can I take a picture? Just one, just for me. I want to remember." My voice broke. "I want to remember what this feels like." Jessica smiled, a real smile this time, and handed me her phone. "Use mine. Better camera than yours. And better lighting in here." My hands shook as I took the phone. I angled it, trying to find the best light, the best pose. In the screen, I could see my made-up face, and emotion welled up again. I looked happy. Despite everything, the fear, the shame, the years of hiding, I looked genuinely happy. I took several photos from different angles, then handed the phone back to Jessica. Would you mind texting those to me?" "Of course." She was already pulling up my contact. "Consider it done." My phone buzzed in my pocket, 5 photos arriving in rapid succession. I pulled it out and looked at them, and my breath caught all over again. This was me. Really, truly me in a way I'd never allowed myself to be before. "I should probably take this off," I said reluctantly. "Before it gets too late." "Before what?" Jessica interrupted. "Alex, it's Thursday afternoon. Neither of us has anywhere to be. Why don't you just exist like this for a while? No performance, no pressure. Just be." The suggestion was so unexpected, so generous, that I didn't know how to respond. Just exist like this? In makeup, in her room, with her knowledge and apparent acceptance? It seemed too good to be true. I started, but Jessica was already standing up. "I'm ordering pizza," she announced. "You like pepperoni and mushroom, right? We can watch something on Netflix. Have a normal Thursday evening. Except you get to look fabulous while doing it." "Jessica." "No arguments. You've been my roommate for 8 months, and you're honestly one of the most considerate people I've ever lived with. You do your dishes, You're quiet. You always warn me when you're having friends over. The least I can do is give you a safe space for one evening. She said it so matter-of-factly, like offering sanctuary was the most natural thing in the world. Like I wasn't asking for something extraordinary. Okay, I whispered. Okay. Thank you. Part 3. The evening. We ended up on the couch in our small living room, pizza box open between us, some true crime documentary playing on the TV that neither of us was really watching. I kept catching glimpses of myself in the black screen of the TV when the image went dark, and each time, it sent a little thrill through me. I was wearing makeup. In my own apartment. With someone who knew, and it was okay. Can I ask you something now? Jessica said during a particularly boring interview segment. My stomach clenched. Sure. Is it just makeup? Or is it more than that? The question I'd been avoiding for years, put to me directly over lukewarm pizza in my living room. I don't know, I admitted. That's the honest answer. I've never let myself think about it too deeply. Makeup feels safe, somehow. Contained. I can put it on and take it off. But clothes. I trailed off, memories flooding back. Tell me, Jessica encouraged gently. In high school, there was this one time, I began, surprised at how much I wanted to share with her. My mom worked double shifts on Saturdays. I had the house to myself from 7 in the morning until past midnight. And I tried on one of her dresses. This blue sundress she never wore anymore. It was too big, but I didn't care. I wore it around the empty house for hours. I danced in it. I made lunch and ate it at the kitchen table in that dress, pretending I was just normal. Like this was my everyday life. What happened? Jessica asked. My mom's shift got cancelled. She came home 8 hours early and found me making dinner. In her dress. With her jewelry. I'd even found these old heels in the back of her closet. The memory was vivid, painful even after all these years. She didn't yell. That's what I remember most. She just looked at me with this expression of complete disappointment and said, "What did I do wrong?" Like I was her failure. Like I'd chosen this to hurt her. Jessica's hand found mine and squeezed. That must have been awful. The therapy was worse. 6 months of Dr. Morrison telling me that gender expression was a choice, that I was choosing to rebel, that real masculinity was something I needed to reclaim. He had me doing the dumbest exercises, watching sports, joining the wrestling team, forcing myself to belch and scratch myself and do all these performative masculinity things that felt like wearing someone else's skin. Did it work? I laughed darkly. What do you think? I'm sitting here on a Thursday night with a full face of makeup. So no, it didn't work. It just taught me to hide better. To bury it deeper. I'm sorry you went through that, Jessica said. No one should have to hide who they are. But that's the thing, I don't even know who I am. The frustration I'd been carrying for years spilled out. Am I trans? Am I just a guy who likes makeup? Is this a fetish? A phase? An identity? I don't have the vocabulary for it. I don't have the framework. All I know is that when I see myself like this, I gestured at my made-up face, something clicks into place. Something feels right in a way nothing else ever has. Jessica was quiet for a long moment, thinking. When she spoke, her words were careful. You know you don't have to have all the answers right now, right? You're 22. You're allowed to explore and question and try things out. Identity isn't static, it's something we build over time. That's what terrifies me, I admitted. What if I explore and find out I'm something the world won't accept? What if I want to be? I couldn't say it. The words stuck in my throat. What if you want to be a woman? Jessica finished for me, her voice gentle. Hearing her say it out loud sent shockwaves through my system. No one had ever said it so directly, without judgment or horror. Just a simple statement of possibility. I don't know, I whispered. but we both knew that wasn't entirely true. I did know, somewhere deep down. I just wasn't ready to face it. Here's what I think, Jessica said, shifting to face me more directly. I think you should give yourself permission to explore without pressure to define everything immediately. You want to wear makeup? Wear makeup. You want to try women's clothes? Try them. You want to experiment with pronouns or names? Experiment. None of it has to mean anything permanent. None of it has to be a declaration of identity. It can just be exploration. But where? I asked helplessly. How? I can't exactly go out in public like this. And I can't afford to move somewhere more accepting. I'm barely making rent as it is. Jessica's eyes lit up with an idea that made me nervous. What if you didn't have to go out in public? What if you had a safe space right here? What do you mean? I mean, she gestured around our apartment. What if Thursday afternoons became your time? I'll make sure I'm gone. You can use my makeup, try on clothes if you want. I've got stuff that might fit you, or we could go shopping together sometime. No pressure, no judgment. Just a space to be yourself. The offer was so generous it made my chest ache. I couldn't ask you to do that. To rearrange your schedule, to let me use your things. You're not asking. I'm offering. And honestly, Alex, I'd feel good knowing you have somewhere safe. A place where you don't have to hide. She paused, then added with a slight smile. Plus, if you're going to use my makeup, I'd rather teach you how to do it right so you don't waste product. I laughed despite myself, then sobered. Why are you being so nice about this? Most people would freak out. They'd ask me to move out or tell everyone or... Because I believe people should get to be who they are, Jessica said simply. And because you're my friend, Alex. You think I don't notice how kind you are? How you always save me the last slice of pizza, even though I know you want it. How you turn down your music when I'm studying, even when I haven't asked. You're a good person, and good people deserve support. Tears threatened again, and this time I didn't fight them. They streaked down my cheeks, probably ruining the makeup, but I didn't care. Jessica pulled me into a hug, and I let myself be held, let myself feel the relief and gratitude and overwhelming emotion of being seen and accepted. Thank you, I managed between sobs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're welcome, she murmured, rubbing circles on my back. Now come on, let's fix your makeup. You've got mascara running everywhere. Part 4, the weeks after. True to her word, Jessica made Thursday afternoons sacred. She'd text me around noon, heading out, apartment is yours until 6, and I'd have hours to explore this hidden part of myself in safety. The first few weeks, I stuck mostly to makeup. I'd watch tutorials, practice techniques, learn the difference between day looks and evening looks, between natural enhancement and dramatic transformation. Jessica left notes sometimes, try this palette for blue eyes or remember to set with powder, and slowly, I improved. But inevitably, I wanted more. It was the third Thursday when I finally worked up the courage to knock on Jessica's bedroom door that evening after she came home. She opened it, eyebrows raised in question. Could I swallowed hard. Could I maybe try on some clothes? You said I could, but I wanted to ask first, not just go through your stuff. Jessica's face broke into a wide smile. Of course. Let me pull out some things that might fit. You're taller than me, but we're close enough in size that some stuff should work. She dove into her closet with enthusiasm, emerging with armfuls of options. Dresses, skirts, blouses, jeans. She laid them out on her bed like offerings. Try whatever you want, she said. Fashion show optional but encouraged. I stood there, overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices. Where did I even start? Here. Jessica picked up a simple black dress, knee-length and modest. This is forgiving and classic. Good starter dress. With shaking hands, I took it. Jessica tactfully left the room to give me privacy, and I stood alone with the dress, my heart pounding. This was different from childhood experiments with my mother's clothes. This was intentional. This was me actively choosing to present feminine. I stripped down to my boxers and pulled the dress over my head. It caught on my shoulders. I was broader than Jessica, but with some maneuvering, I got it on. The fabric whispered against my skin, soft and alien and wonderful. I turned to look in her full-length mirror. The person staring back at me was incomplete. The dress looked odd with my masculine legs, my boxers visible beneath the hem, my bare feet and unshaved arms. But there was something there. A glimpse of who I might become. "Can I come in?" Jessica called from the hallway. "Yeah." She entered and assessed me with a critical eye. "The dress works, but you need the full picture. Hang on." She rummaged in her drawers and produced a pair of opaque black tights. "These will help." And she grabbed shoes from her closet. "These are flats, size 9. What size are you?" 10. "Close enough. They'll be tight, but they'll work for an hour or so." 20 minutes later, I stood in front of the mirror again, this time transformed more completely. The tights smoothed out my legs. The flats made my posture different, more feminine. Jessica had helped me adjust the dress and added a simple silver necklace. With the makeup I'd applied earlier, I looked like a woman, I breathed, stunned. "You look like yourself," Jessica corrected gently. Maybe for the first time. She was right. Despite the ill-fitting dress and the too tight shoes, despite my masculine hands and the shadow of stubble Jessica had covered with color corrector, I looked more like myself than I ever had in 22 years. "I want to try more," I said, turning to her with wild hope in my eyes. "Can I try everything? All of it?" Jessica laughed. "We've got all evening. Let's do this properly." Part 5. The Discovery. Over the next several weeks, Thursdays became my lifeline. I experimented with different styles, casual, professional, evening wear. Jessica became not just tolerant but actively helpful, teaching me about fit and proportion, about color theory and accessorizing. She showed me how to walk in heels, poorly, at first, how to sit in a skirt, how to carry myself differently. But more than the external transformation, something internal was shifting. The more I allowed myself to explore, the clearer my feelings became. This wasn't just play or experimentation. This was recognition. Every time I saw myself in feminine presentation, something in my chest loosened, like I'd been holding my breath for my entire life and could finally exhale. One Thursday in early November, I was wearing one of Jessica's casual dresses, a soft gray sweater dress with tights and boots, when she came home earlier than expected. I'd gotten comfortable enough that I didn't immediately panic. Instead, I just looked up from the book I was reading on the couch. "Hey," I said casually, though my heart still sped up slightly. "You're home early." "Study session wrapped up fast," Jessica said, dropping her bag and joining me on the couch. "You look comfortable." "I am," I admitted. And I was. The dress was cozy, the apartment warm, and for once, I wasn't hypervigilant about every sound, every potential interruption. "Can we talk?" Jessica asked, her tone more serious. My stomach dropped. Here it was, the conversation where she told me this had gone too far, that I needed to stop, that this was weird. "Sure," I said, bracing myself. "I've been thinking," Jessica began carefully, "about your journey and what you've been discovering about yourself. And I want you to know that whatever conclusion you come to, I'm here for you. But I also think, and please tell me if I'm overstepping, that you might want to talk to someone professional about this. Not like Dr. Morrison," she added quickly, seeing my expression. "I mean a gender therapist. Someone who specializes in helping people explore their identity." The suggestion caught me off guard. A therapist. "You've made so much progress in these last few weeks," Jessica continued. "But Alex, you're still doing all of this in secret, within these walls. And I wonder if having professional support might help you figure out what you want your life to look like beyond Thursday afternoons." She was right, and I knew it. As wonderful as these stolen hours were, They existed in a bubble. Eventually, I'd have to face the bigger questions. Who was I? Who did I want to be? What did I want my life to look like? I don't know if I can afford therapy, I said weakly. I looked into it, Jessica said, pulling out her phone. There's a sliding scale clinic downtown that specializes in LGBTQ+ issues. Gender therapy is one of their main focuses. I wrote down the contact information if you want it. She held out a piece of paper with a phone number and name. Sage Rivers, LMFT. Gender Identity Specialist. I took the paper with trembling hands. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to call today. Or tomorrow. Or even next week, Jessica assured me. But when you are ready, you'll have the information. That's all I wanted, to give you options. I stared at the paper, at the phone number that represented a door I could walk through if I chose. A door that led to, what? More self-discovery? Difficult conversations? Life-changing decisions? What if I started, then stopped? Started again. What if I figure out I'm trans? What if this isn't just cross-dressing or exploration? What if I want to transition? The words hung in the air, heavy and terrifying and thrilling all at once. I'd never said them out loud before. Never let myself think that far ahead. Jessica met my eyes steadily. Then you transition. And your life moves forward. It won't be easy, but you'll be living authentically. And you'll have people who support you, including me. You really mean that? My voice came out small, vulnerable. I really mean that. Alex, or whatever name you might choose, whatever pronouns you might use, I'm your friend. That doesn't change based on your gender. Something broke open inside me at her words. A dam I'd built over years of suppression and fear and shame. I started crying, and this time, I didn't care about the makeup. Jessica moved closer, putting an arm around me, and I leaned into her warmth. I think I might be a woman, I whispered into her shoulder, saying the words for the first time in my life. I think I've always been a woman, and I've been pretending to be someone else for 22 years. Okay, Jessica said simply, holding me tighter. Okay. Then let's figure out what that means for you. Part 6. First Steps. I called Sage Rivers the following Monday. My hands shook so badly I could barely press the numbers, and I almost hung up 3 times before someone answered. But I did it. I made an appointment for the next week. The night before my first therapy session, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I would say. How did you even begin to explain a lifetime of confusion and hiding? Jessica knocked softly on my door around midnight. Can't sleep either. Too nervous, I admitted. She came in and sat on the edge of my bed, something clutched in her hands. I got you something. An early Christmas present, I guess. Or just a you're about to take a huge step present. She handed me a small wrapped package. Inside was a journal, its cover a soft lavender color, and a nice pen. For processing, Jessica explained. Therapy is going to bring up a lot of feelings and memories. Sometimes it helps to write it down. I ran my fingers over the journal's smooth cover. Thank you. For everything. I don't know how to. You don't have to thank me, Jessica interrupted. Friends show up for each other. That's what we do. The first session with Sage was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. They were non-binary, I learned, and their office was covered in pride flags and affirming posters. For the first time, I sat in a therapist's office and felt safe. Tell me what brings you here, Sage said after the initial pleasantries. And I told them everything. About the makeup, the clothes, the years of hiding. About my mother and Dr. Morrison and Jessica's unexpected acceptance. About the growing certainty that I wasn't just a man who liked feminine things, I was a woman who'd been forced to live as a man. Sage listened without judgment, taking occasional notes, asking clarifying questions. When I finished, they smiled gently. Thank you for trusting me with your story, they said. What I'm hearing is that you've had these feelings about your gender for most of your life, but you haven't felt safe exploring them until very recently. Is that accurate? Yes, I said, relieved to be understood so quickly. Here's what I want you to know. Gender identity exists on a spectrum, and there's no right way to be transgender or gender non-conforming. Some people know with absolute certainty from a young age. Others take years to understand themselves. Your journey is valid regardless of how long it takes or what conclusion you reach. Over the following months, therapy became my anchor. Sage helped me untangle years of shame and internalized transphobia. We talked about what transition might look like: social, medical, legal. We discussed the challenges I'd face and the support systems I'd need. And slowly, carefully, I began to come out. Part 7. Becoming. The first person I told, besides Jessica and Sage, was my younger brother, Tyler. I invited him for coffee on a Saturday morning in December, my stomach in knots. "What's up?" he asked, sipping his latte. "You look like you're about to confess to murder." "Not murder," I said, attempting humor to calm my nerves. "Just something big. Something I need to tell you." His expression shifted to concern. "Are you okay? Are you sick?" "No, nothing like that. Deep breath. Tyler, I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I've known for a while, but I'm just starting to tell people." Silence. Tyler stared at me, his coffee forgotten. I watched emotions play across his face: confusion, surprise, processing. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay. So, you're my sister." The word sister hit me like a physical force. I'd imagined how it might sound, but hearing it from my brother's mouth was entirely different. Tears sprang to my eyes. "Yeah," I managed. "I'm your sister." "Does Mom know?" "Not yet. You're the first family member I'm telling." My voice cracked. I wanted to tell someone who might actually accept me. Tyler reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "I accept you. I don't totally understand it yet, and I'll probably screw up your pronouns a bunch, but you're my sibling. That doesn't change." The relief was overwhelming. "Thank you. God, Tyler, thank you." "Do you have a new name yet?" he asked. "I'm thinking Alexandra. Alex still, just the full version. More feminine." "Alexandra," Tyler tried out. "I like it. It suits you." Coming out to my mother was exponentially harder. I put it off for weeks, dreading the conversation, remembering her reaction all those years ago. But Sage helped me prepare, and Jessica role-played the conversation with me until I felt somewhat ready. I called her on a Tuesday evening in January. "Mom, it's Alex. Can we talk?" "Of course, honey. Is everything all right?" "I need to tell you something important. Something about me that you need to know." I took a breath. "Mom, I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I'm in therapy, I'm transitioning, and I wanted you to hear it from me." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Mom." "I thought we fixed this," she said finally, her voice tight. "I thought therapy with Dr. Morrison." "There's nothing to fix," I interrupted, my voice firmer than I felt. "This is who I am. This is who I've always been. I'm not asking for your permission, Mom. I'm just telling you out of respect." "This is going to ruin your life," she said, and I could hear tears in her voice. "People will judge you. They'll discriminate against you. You're throwing away." "I'm throwing away a life that was killing me," I said. "Living as someone I'm not, that was destroying me from the inside. This is me choosing to live authentically, and I really hope you can support that." We talked for another 30 minutes, going in circles. She cried. I cried. We didn't reach any resolution, but at least it was out in the open. "I need time," she said finally. "I need to process this." "Okay," I agreed. "Take the time you need." I'll be here when you're ready. After I hung up, I collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted. Jessica appeared with ice cream and a heating pad. How'd it go? She asked. About as well as expected, I said. She didn't disown me, but she's not exactly throwing a celebration either. That's not a complete disaster, Jessica offered. She might come around. Maybe, I said, though I wasn't entirely convinced. Part 8. The Changes. As winter turned to spring, my life transformed in ways both subtle and profound. I started hormone replacement therapy in February, taking my first dose of estrogen with Jessica there for support. The changes were slow at first: softer skin, subtle shifts in body fat distribution, the faint beginning of breast development. But the emotional changes were immediate and powerful. The hormones didn't make me a different person, but they settled something in me. Colors seemed brighter. Emotions felt more accessible. I cried more easily, laughed more freely. You seem lighter, Jessica observed one evening. Like you're not carrying as much weight around. I feel lighter, I admitted. I didn't realize how much energy it took to pretend to be someone else. Now that I'm not doing that anymore, it's like I can breathe. I started presenting as female in more contexts. First just at home, then in LGBTQ+ spaces, then eventually in public. Each step was terrifying and exhilarating. The first time I went to the grocery store in a dress, I was convinced everyone was staring at me, judging me. But when I got home and realized the world hadn't ended, that no one had harassed me or even seemed to care, something loosened further. My workplace was a bigger challenge. I'd been working at a marketing firm since graduating, and while they had non-discrimination policies on paper, I didn't know how they'd handle an actual transition. I met with HR in March, my hands shaking as I explained my situation. I'm transgender, I told the HR director, Maria. I'll be transitioning fully over the next several months, and I wanted to inform the company and understand what support might be available. To my surprise and relief, Maria was nothing but professional and supportive. We have several trans employees, she said. We'll need to update your records with your preferred name and pronouns. We can also coordinate an email announcement to the company if you'd like, or we can handle it more quietly, whatever makes you most comfortable. We decided on a company-wide email, brief and professional, announcing my transition and requesting that colleagues use my correct name and pronouns. My direct supervisor, Janet, pulled me aside afterward. Alexandra, she said, using my new name carefully, I want you to know that your talent and work ethic are what matter to this company. Your gender doesn't change that. If anyone gives you any trouble, you come directly to me. The support surprised me. I'd been so prepared for rejection that acceptance felt almost suspect. But as weeks passed and my colleagues adapted, with varying levels of grace, but all trying, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. Part 9. The Evolution. By early summer, I'd been living full-time as Alexandra for 3 months. My hair had grown long enough to style properly. The hormones had softened my features. I'd mastered makeup well enough to feel confident. I was, by any external measure, passing as a cisgender woman most of the time. But passing wasn't the goal. I'd learned through therapy. Authenticity was. Jessica and I were sitting on our apartment balcony one June evening, drinking wine and watching the sunset, when she brought up something that had been on my mind too. I've been thinking about getting my own place, she said carefully. Not because of you or anything you've done. But I got that promotion, and I can afford a 1-bedroom now, and I'd really like my own space. My heart sank, even though I knew this was coming eventually. I understand. When are you thinking? End of summer, probably. Which means you'll need to find a new roommate or figure out if you can afford this place alone. I'd been doing the math already. I can't afford it alone. I'll need to find someone. There's something else, Jessica said, turning to face me more fully. I've loved living with you, Alexandra. Truly. You're one of the best friends I've ever had. But I wonder if, and tell me if this is overstepping, if you might want to use this as an opportunity to find a queer roommate. Someone who understands your experience more personally. The suggestion caught me off guard, but as I thought about it, it made sense. Living with Jessica had been wonderful, but she was still a cisgender straight woman. There were aspects of my experience she couldn't fully relate to. That might be good, I admitted. How would I even find someone like that? There are online groups for LGBTQ+ housing, Jessica said, pulling out her phone. Look, I'm already in a few because of some friends. Let me send you the links. 2 weeks later, I met Samira at a coffee shop to discuss potentially rooming together. She was a 28-year-old trans woman, 5 years into her own transition, working as a software engineer. We clicked immediately. What's the living situation like? Samira asked. Drama, cleanliness, noise level. Pretty chill, I said. I work regular hours, I'm fairly quiet, I clean up after myself. My ex-roommate Jessica is moving out because she wants her own place, not because of any issues. And you're how far into transition? About 6 months on hormones. Living full-time for 3 months. Samira nodded knowingly. That's a wild time. Everything feels intense, right? Every little change feels monumental. Yes. I was relieved to talk to someone who understood. Last week I cried because my jeans fit differently. Happy crying, but still. Samira laughed. Oh honey, wait until you try to open a jar 6 months from now and realize you've lost significant upper body strength. That was a moment for me. We talked for over an hour, and by the end, we'd agreed to room together. When I told Jessica that evening, she seemed genuinely happy. Samira sounds great, she said. And I think having someone who's been through this will be really good for you. Plus, I'll still be around. We'll do brunch. We'll have girls' nights. This isn't goodbye, it's just evolution. Part 10. Full circle. Moving day came in late August. Jessica had already moved most of her stuff to her new apartment, and Samira was bringing her things in. I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by boxes, feeling nostalgic and anxious and excited all at once. You okay? Jessica asked, carrying out her last box. Yeah, I said. Just thinking about everything that's happened in this apartment. All the ways my life has changed since we moved in together. Jessica set down the box and pulled me into a hug. You've come so far, Alexandra. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. That first day, when you found me at your vanity, you could have reacted so differently. You could have made everything so much harder. But I didn't, Jessica said, pulling back to look at me. Because you deserved kindness. Everyone deserves kindness when they're trying to figure themselves out. I was so terrified that day, I admitted. I thought my life was over. I thought you'd kick me out, tell everyone, make me this joke. Instead, you gave me space to become myself. I don't know how to thank you for that. You don't have to thank me, Jessica said. Just keep being authentically you. Keep being brave. That's thanks enough. After Jessica left, Samira helped me unpack some of her boxes. We were organizing the kitchen when she asked, casually, so what's your story? How'd you figure yourself out? I told her about the makeup, the catching, Jessica's unexpected support. About the months of Thursdays and the slow unfolding of my identity. Samira listened, nodding occasionally. That's a beautiful coming out story, she said when I finished. You know what mine was? My girlfriend at the time found my secret Reddit account where I was posting in trans forums. She confronted me, I had a complete breakdown, and I ended up coming out to her and everyone else within a week because I was too emotionally destroyed to keep pretending. That sounds traumatic. It was, Samira agreed. But it also forced my hand in a way I needed. I'd been waiting for the right time that was never going to come. Sometimes you need the universe to push you. Is that what you think happened to me? Jessica catching me was the universe pushing. Maybe, Samira said thoughtfully. Or maybe you were ready and didn't know it yet. Either way, you ended up here, living as yourself, transitioning, building a life. That's what matters. That night, lying in bed in an apartment that felt both familiar and new, I thought about Samira's words. Had I been ready? Or had I just been lucky that Jessica was the person who found me? Maybe it was both. Maybe readiness and luck and timing all conspired to bring me to this moment. 10 months into transition, living with another trans woman, building a life I'd never imagined possible. I pulled out the lavender journal Jessica had given me and opened to a fresh page. I'd been documenting my transition, per Sage suggestion, but tonight I wanted to write something different. Dear past Alex. The person you were so afraid to be, she exists now. She's real. She's living in your body, using your name, with a feminine twist, building the life you dreamed about in secret. That day Jessica caught you with her makeup? That was the beginning of everything. You thought it was the end, the exposure of your shameful secret. But it was actually the door opening to your real life. You were so terrified for so long. Terrified of being seen, of being rejected, of losing everything. And yes, some people didn't accept you. Mom is still coming around. You lost a few friends who couldn't handle your transition. But you gained so much more. You gained yourself. You get to wake up every morning and see the right person in the mirror. You get to exist in a body that's becoming home instead of prison. You get to use the correct pronouns, the correct name. You get to wear dresses without shame, makeup without fear. Was it worth it? The fear, the pain, the difficult conversations? God, yes. 1,000 times yes. Love, Alexandra. I closed the journal, turned off the light, and drifted to sleep, comfortable in my skin for perhaps the first time in my life. Epilogue. 1 year later. The coffee shop was crowded on Thursday afternoon, but Jessica and I had snagged our usual table in the corner. It had become our weekly ritual. Thursday coffee, catching up, maintaining the friendship that had started as a simple roommate situation and evolved into something profound. How's work? Jessica asked, doctoring her latte with an absurd amount of sugar. Good, actually. I got assigned that big campaign I told you about, the one for the non-profit. It feels good to work on something meaningful. And Samira? How's living with her? Amazing, I said honestly. She's like the big sister I never had. She's been through everything I'm going through, so she gets it. The other day I was freaking out about getting my name legally changed, and she just sat me down and walked me through the entire process. She's even going to come with me to the courthouse. Jessica smiled. I'm so glad. I worried a little about moving out, about leaving you without support. You didn't leave, I reminded her. You're right here, every Thursday, listening to me ramble about hormones and coming out stories and all the trans stuff you didn't sign up for. I signed up for friendship, Jessica corrected. Everything else is just details. Speaking of details, I said, pulling out my phone, my mom called yesterday. Jessica's eyebrows shot up. And she wants to meet for lunch. Just the two of us. She said she's been doing her own therapy, trying to understand and accept my transition. She's not all the way there yet, but she's trying. Alexandra, that's huge. I know. I'm cautiously optimistic. But the fact that she's putting in effort, that she's trying to understand, that's more than I expected a year ago. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping our drinks, watching people pass by the window. I caught my reflection in the glass, a woman in her early 20s, wearing minimal makeup, hair pulled back in a casual ponytail, looking relaxed and confident. A year ago, I would have stared at that reflection in wonder. Now, it was just me. Normal, everyday me. Can I tell you something sappy? I asked Jessica.